What's up YouTube, and welcome back to another weekly episode. I've been missing creating Star Wars content, so today it's back with a true story of how I auditioned for Star Wars The Force Awakens. The year was 2013, I was 17 years old and I had a big dream of becoming a movie star. It happened that my brother saw an online advert that Star Wars was holding an open casting call audition in London. Well, me being a huge Star Wars fan and a young, confident wannabe actor, I saw this as my opportunity, which I wasn't going to let pass me by. I found out the details, went to my dad and asked him if he would take me on the 2-hour drive to London. I was lucky that my parents were always extremely supportive of me, so of course he agreed and off we set on Saturday the 9th of November 2013 to Twickenham Stadium in London. We arrived early at around 6 AM and pulled up to a large car park on the stadium grounds. The first thing you could see was the queue of people overflowing out of the stadium into the car park. Despite us being early, it seemed everyone else had the same idea. Amongst the queue there were 2 large blue tents. This seemed to be where everybody at the front were eventually heading to. My nerves kicked in, realising this was it, my big moment. I left my dad while he sat in the car for the whole duration. I got amongst the mass of people in the queue and the long wait began. I queued for 6 hours on my own in the freezing cold while the queue seemed to barely move. But that didn't matter, it was well worth it as far as I was concerned. Casting directors were reportedly looking for actors to portray a street smart and strong orphaned girl in her late teens and a smart, capable man in his late teens or early 20s. This open audition process was also utilised to recruit many of the stars in the original trilogy of films. So while I stood there with lots of time on my hands, I was thinking about how I was best going to make myself stand out. Looking around, I saw many different characters of people, or as I looked at them, competition. There was tall, short, skinny, bulky, good looking and not so good looking people. A huge variety, that was for sure. Eventually I arrived at the queue for the 2 large blue tents. At the front, standing raised on a platform above everyone else, was a man on a megaphone. He was telling us to prepare our headshots and telling us the process of what to do once in the tents. The first tent was for preparing yourself, then once ready, move on into the second tent to meet the casting directors. However, I noticed there was 2 people organising 2 separate queues, one on the left and one on the right. At the time I didn't know it, but this was to eliminate the vast numbers of people to make it easier and faster for the official casting directors to choose people. If you were put on the queue in the right, you didn't make it into the tent. They politely and quickly showed you the exit. This was a real lesson in show business for everyone involved. Luckily, I was selected into the queue on the left. That felt great being selected. I then proceeded into the first tent. It was plain, but it did have several large mirrors all over the interior walls. I took my time, made sure I looked presentable, took a deep breath, told myself to overflow with a smile and confidence, and then I walked into that second tent. Here there was 2 official Star Wars casting directors, one on the left and one on the right. I was so excited. Knowing I was about to meet the officials involved with Star Wars itself, it was a very surreal moment. I stepped forward, smiled and greeted the lady with a big confident, "Hello, I'm Harry," as I passed her my headshot. She smiled, said hello, briefly took a moment to look me up and down. She looked at my headshot and simply said,
"Thank you for auditioning. Please leave your photo in the tray behind. You can also send us an audition tape online."
So I placed my photo in the tray and exited the tent. At that moment I knew I hadn't got any further in the audition process, but that was okay. Obviously disappointed, but I was quick to remember the experience I had just gone through. It was unbelievable for a young budding actor. I'd made my way back to the car to where my good old dad was still sitting there smiling with excitement for me. 6 hours later. I told him all about the experience and we headed home. It later turned out, as far as I'm aware, not one person was cast from the thousands that turned up to the London audition. However, a small select few made it slightly further to line reading auditions. And that's my story. It was a brilliant experience, one I'll never regret taking the opportunity to do. Would I do it again now, 7 years later? Absolutely. I would just like to say a big thank you to my dad for being the legend that he is and for supporting me on that experience. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your support as always, guys. And until next time, I will see you then. May the Force be with you. Bye, guys.